The game starts with Basim awaking from a bad dream, but luckily his mate's there and she's like, don't be such a pussy. Then we've got to follow said mate through the streets of Baghdad, and I can't believe it's 2023 and we can't match a player character to the speed of NPCs. We then excessively parkour everywhere, seeing as this is an Assassin's Creed game. I believe the official Assassin's motto is bridges are for pussies. I then accidentally throw myself in the river.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Where some would say skill issue, I'd say that Basim was looking thirsty. Cholera. Then my mate wants to teach me how to steal from the poor and keep for ourselves. But hang on love, get out the way, that's a pussycat and I want to play with it. The jokes might write themselves, but I would never go for such low-hanging fruit. Be careful Basim mate, she looks absolutely riddled. While no one is looking, I pinch from this shopkeeper, then pickpocket this guy by actually a pretty cool minigame. Although I don't know what Basim is picking up there, but it's definitely not her pocket. Unfortunately, this opens up the floodgates and I start stealing from literally everyone. We then pay a visit to another mate of ours who's got a contract for us. But before we get to work, I hand all of my loot over to the neighbouring kids. It'll be quite funny when they get pulled over for handling stolen goods. Dervish then gives me a job to go steal a book from a neighbouring guard camp. But try not to get caught as there's a zero tolerance policy on crime. And I'm like, consider it done mate, stealth is my middle name.
Excuse me lads, I'm sure you understand. Snitches to get stitches, remember? He was only knocked out as well. He's now drowning. Hey, I can find a way to murder anyone in a video game.
I find a locked door that almost certainly harbours the ledger I'm after.
Look for a nearby guard to pickpocket or loot the key. Oh, I really hope that wasn't the guy just dumped in the harbour.
I figure the best way to find the key is to make my way through all of the guards. And perhaps the most surprising thing from 2023, I actually do this with incredible efficiency. Although I'll be honest, in the end I think I get a bit sadistic with it. Most of them weren't even in my way, Basim just has a thirst for blood. And with everyone suffering from severe brain trauma, I can obviously find the key and steal the ledger. And everything else I get my thieving little hands on. I then head back to our bald mate and we meet our first assassin. Sorry, I mean hidden one. It's actually a lady assassin who sounds like she's been smoking 40 a day since she was 10 years old.
Give it here.
Basim then becomes a proper pick-me boy and starts begging her to take him under her wing. But she's like, nah, fuck off son. But before we walked in, we heard her talking to Davish about some black chest in a nearby palace. So Basim comes up with the brilliant idea to try and steal it to win her approval. Our mate reckons that's a proper shite idea but agrees to show us to the palace. We then obviously wait till nightfall and the game gives me two options. I can either find my own way through the grounds or follow our mate who apparently knows the way in. And since I've been married for 6 months now, I know that women are always right, so choose to follow her. But we can only get so far before the door in front of us is locked. So I've once again got to go looking around for a guard with a key. And thankfully guards are very inquisitive and will investigate a whistling noise coming from a bunch of daisies. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I become the greatest stealth player of all time. With that key we can now enter the room and we find the chest there unguarded. And using a nearby candlestick holder I'm able to bash the lock off. And we find some weird disc thing. But as I pick it up I get some weird hallucination type shit. But get interrupted by this lad who's not happy that I'm stealing his disc thing. He then goes full berserker and tries throttling me, but unlucky bitch, I brought a friend with me. I've then got to make a runner and escape all of the guards. I was like, hang on son, I wasn't the one who stabbed the bloke in the neck. But thankfully I am the greatest free runner of all time and definitely don't get murdered by the guards multiple times while trying to make my escape. How the bloody hell was I supposed to know that heavily forged sharpened steel beats fists? Anyway, Basim eventually makes it home and he cries himself to sleep over the death of one knobhead. Wait until we get a stabby thing of our own, you're gonna end up with some very deep-seated psychological issues. He wakes up to Gilfie the assassin at the edge of his bed and she's like, thanks for getting this disc but I can sort you right out. But not in a saucy step-grandmother sort of way. I've got to meet her at the docks and she'll take me to safety. But I've got to be really careful because all the guards are looking for someone matching my description. That is literally the definition of racial profiling. I can't believe we still gotta put up with this shit in the 9th century. So I get to the docks and bear in mind I'm a 6 foot tall fully grown adult with long black hair. They've only gone and murdered all the bloody street kids that we were talking to earlier. What kind of stupid guards are they? A soldier then spots me as I try to make my escape to the assassin woman, but before they have a chance to skewer me like a kebab, she goes full berserker mode and kills them both. And fair play, she's incredibly spry for an elderly lady. She then yeets herself into the harbour, meanwhile my fall is much less graceful. I then resurfaced 2 months later in a completely different place. I knew the assassin order was badass, but I didn't know they were going to turn me into fucking Aquaman. In fact, they made me so badass I'm able to bludgeon rabbits with my bare fists.
Did I not do anything with that rabbit? Did I just murder it? The RSPCA are going to be fuming with me.
To continue my training, you guessed it, I've got to go to the training ground. But being a future member of the Assassin's Brotherhood, I'm not allowed to believe in staircases. So we've got to make our way up this mountain via a series of suspiciously grown trees and some really questionable questionable engineering work. I can then get my ass kicked by an old woman. And this will happen multiple times over the next few months as I complete my training to become an assassin. Sorry, hidden one. I leap large canyons, surprise attack old men in the darkness, and even grow myself a sick-ass beard via the process of meditation. And now I'm ready to join this ancient cult. But like every ancient cult, first I've got to make a sacrifice. But I've already told them I won't do anything with children or animals. Oh, hang on, they just want me to chop off a finger. Yeah, sound. Then finally, as a fully trained assassin, I'm able to batter this old woman. Oh, for fuck's sake, mate, talk about timing. I was about to win for once. He's like, they kidnapped our mate and nearly killed me. So we ready up the camels and head back to Baghdad. And I'm finally granted access to the open world. And the first thing I notice is how impressive the sand physics are. What an incredibly detailed masterpiece.
Ancient civilizations must have left this mark in. I wonder what it could mean.
Before we crack on with hunting down bad guys, I give myself 5 minutes free time to explore the open world. And I spend that time pickpocketing grieving widows. But unfortunately, this man isn't rich enough to be pickpocketed. And I'm now a wanted man. Jesus Christ, I haven't even got to the city yet and I've already caused chaos. And unfortunately for these guys, it's only gonna get worse from here.
Yeah, parry that, casual.
I then become absolutely horrified by what Ubisoft have stuck in this game. What do you mean I can't sever the limbs of children? But they'll happily add an additional bar to my wanted level? What do you mean a Middle Eastern man can't swing a knife around the street? It seems to me like Ubisoft are racist.
Hey, I've got to test these things out, okay?
This bloke then offers me outside, but I'm like, bro, we literally stood in the street for fuck's sake. But hey, whatever, quick dagger to the chest and my wanted level drops to 0. So why is there wanted posters that have just sprung up around town?
Is that supposed to be me?
Like, fair play, their print shop must be working overtime to get them done that quick. I've only been here a whole 3 minutes, and I've pickpocketed a grieving widow, murdered 3 guards in the middle of the street, then tried to butcher a child. And in that time, they've managed to create and hang multiple wanted posters. They might be out to get me, but you gotta respect the grind. So I get to the Hidden Ones Bureau, and Gilfy Assassin gives me my first assignment. I've got to meet up with the captain of a local rebel group. But seeing as he's not looking, I help myself to his lunchbox. I introduce myself, and he's like, "You're right, but how's it going?" Then he's like, "Is there any chance you can help me? A couple of my boys got pinched by the fuzz." So I'm like, "Yeah, sure, mate, I'll see what I can get sorted for you." But I do unfortunately get distracted by a donkey, which is a massive plot twist, as us Welsh people usually get distracted by sheep. Moving on before the comment section get full of sheepshagger references, I send up the eagle to start scouting the area. Then with the reconnaissance thoroughly taken care of, I almost ruined the entire mission straight away. Thankfully, the guard didn't think to investigate the strange cloaked man creeping along the rooftop above him. I then do a cheeky bit of tightrope walking and shank another guard in the throat. But my biggest drawback has always been when I spot a red barrel, I've got to test it. And yeah, I'd say that makes logical sense.
Wait, hang on, they're suspecting me?
Yeah, I'd say the bloke who's able to walk across string is probably pretty suspicious, but I'll be honest with you. While avoiding any more trouble, I managed to creep my way onto the ship. There's 2 guards on board and I can assassinate the one closest to me with no problems whatsoever. And that makes his mate ever so slightly suspicious. So I try hitting him with my throwing knives, but end up releasing 2 massive cocks instead. With the second guard dealt with, I can release the first rebel, but then I get attacked by a bloody chicken. Obviously, a delicious feathery bird is no match for a trained killer, but all of that cock beating does attract guards. And if they paid more than minimum wage, that might attract some better fighters. I don't believe it, but somehow we've still got stealth still intact. Well, that is until I can't figure out how to dive under the water and the guards spot me. And if you throw enough minimum wage cannon fodder at the problem, you're bound to solve it somehow. So I respawn and again have to tag everyone with the eagle. And this time I go through a different route and manage to pickpocket the big guy out in the open. Although I'm obviously spotted, so figure it's best just to stab him. But the 2 guards that spotted me are easily dealt with, and I can free the first rebel from the boat, and the second that's locked behind a door. But I get spotted and take a heavy one to the chest. Oh, fuck off! For my third and final attempt, I decide to take things much more cautiously.
Well, he's not a great guard, is he? Definitely seen me.
I then leap attack this guy and somehow don't set off the explosive barrel before climbing back up the top to get the high ground on this knobhead. To be honest, it's actually a miracle that nobody has spotted me. I then head back onto the ship, and this time I will not be releasing any wild chickens, and will not be stabbing guards fully in view of their mates. Honestly, the throwing knives are so amazing in this game. I have no idea how they did it, but apparently someone see me jump from the mast. But at least this time I figured out how to dive into the water. Thank fuck 9th century Baghdad has the same pollution as Victoria London. Then my strategy goes a bit balls to the wall as I charge and run up the backside of the big dude. Not a clue how, but nobody spotted me. Although apparently there is one guard paying attention, and he's certainly not happy I've decided to play in the hay. And even though the hand-to-hand combat in this game is possibly the worst I've ever played in a video game, nobody fucks with my boy Basim. I can then free the rebels and meet back up with the captain on the other side of the harbour. And he's like, "Thanks mate, what a legend."